Hello and welcome to my video. This will be a different video than my other videos. Now, first of all, let me give you some background. I actually went to film school years ago, 10 years ago, and in film school, I did a lot of different things. I learned how to make documentaries, I learned how to make regular movies, I learned how to produce, direct, a little bit of acting, mostly writing, editing, sound, everything. But the problem is videos are, well, movies, films, whatever you want to call them, are very hard to make. And the reason they're so hard to make is because film is expensive. Also, video cameras are expensive, upwards of $6,000 up until, I don't know, $100,000. So, when the George Floyd protests happened here in Seattle, I hadn't made a film for 10 years. And I thought, wow, the media is really getting this wrong. I think I'll go out and show the world what's actually happening. And that's what I did. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I went out and did this is people didn't want me to do this. In fact, these shots are pretty much the only shots I'm going to show today because most of the shots have people in them that didn't want to be in my film. Now, most people would say, well, I guess I'll just not make a film. However, I don't do this. In life, when people give me challenges, I feel like, well, challenge accepted. Now, this isn't going to be a slideshow, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how, even in this small, brief series of photos, there's already people glaring at me. And quite frankly, most of the people probably do not want to be in this film either. So at this point, I'm going to show you something else. Here is a documentary made by Morgan Spurlock, Super Size Me 2. We are going to watch a few seconds of this video, and we're going to see the style and the abruptness of this. Watch.
We love sandwich. The number one food eaten in this country is a sandwich.
Not chicken on a bone.
No. It's inconvenient.
Messy.
Exactly. And what's the beauty of a sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the camera jumping every which way, zooming, panning, back and forth every second. Here, there, everywhere. Zoom in, zoom out. Oh, we held it for 5 seconds. He must have said something important. Oh, back to the other guy. Look at this. Are you dizzy yet? I'm dizzy. I can't even watch this. I can't even watch this flip, flap, zip, zop, bibbity bop. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Please welcome!
Now, other documentaries that people do are more like you're mixing your footage with the interviews and we're keeping the audio the same like this.
A band that needs no introduction!
We'll have all kinds of stuff happening to keep the viewer interested, but the reality is nothing is actually happening in this film yet. We're just introductioning into this film. But notice how many shots we have. It's like a shot every half second. Now, if you've watched any of my films, you've noticed that it's pretty much just me talking. And a lot of people don't like this. Now, I can tell you for sure that the film that I'm trying to make, the documentary, the Seattle protest documentary, isn't about people. It is about people because the world is made up of people, but it's about psychology. My film isn't about this person or that person. It's behind the psychology of the entire thing. And when I mean the entire thing, I really do mean the entire thing. I went down the very first night, actually, and had an AR-15 pointed at my face by a Seattle cop. So I didn't get a lot of shots at that particular place, but I got a sense of what was really going on. Now, I've stuck with this project, if you will, since last May 29th. I think, right? Is that when it started? May 29th was the first George Floyd protest in Seattle. Anyway, that's when I started doing this project. And at this point in time, if you actually are like waiting with bated breath, there is not a documentary in the pipeline right now. Now, will there be? I don't know. But I will say this. The most interesting thing about the Seattle protests and the Portland protests and pretty much all the protests in Kenosha is that you had people meeting up that seemingly don't know each other, are very loosely affiliated, if affiliated at all in any way. But you had people just sort of having this consensus opinion that they needed to get out to the streets and they needed to protest what they felt they needed to protest. Now, one of the key factors in me going to this protest for the very first day, before I knew anything, before I knew any people, any background to any of these groups, was the curfew that was placed by the mayor, Jenny Durkin. When she said that everyone needed to be back in their house at like 6 p.m. on Sunday or Saturday or whatever the fuck that day was, that was my breaking point. That was when I jumped out of my seat and said, fuck that. Where's my fucking camera? And I had already watched some people getting tear gassed like that day. And I thought to myself, yeah, or the night before. And I went out and I said, okay, I'm going to go film what's going on. So these pictures are pretty much from that time period, not the first day. I didn't use those for this video. But I wanted to show everyone, this isn't Antifa and Black Bloc, is it? This almost looks like someone could just, these people could just be waiting for like a concert or a football game. Well, I guess not a football game because they'd be wearing football clothing, but if I just showed this and said, this is a group of people waiting for a pop-up restaurant to open, if you didn't read the signs that says fuck the police, you'd probably believe me. And you know what the most interesting part about the whole thing is? There are about 1 million reasons why you could get people to go out in the streets and group together like this. And the George Floyd situation, the murder, is just one of them. But what's so interesting about it is you take that one event and you put it with COVID, I think, and you get all these people sort of in this static, energized position, and then you say something like, okay, well, we're cracking down on this protest and there's curfew. If no one would have said curfew, this whole thing might not have happened. And that's what I think about sometimes is if they would have said protest is late and as long as you want, we support you, and that was Mayor Jenny Durkin saying that, I might have had second thoughts about running out into the street with my camera. I might have said, well, it looks like the city is sort of outraged as well. I guess people's heads are in the right spot. But it was the opposite. It was, come on, you're breaking up Starbucks' windows. You know, we're boarding it up and sending you guys home. And that's when it all changed for me. And that's when I met Trumpet Man. And so here we are. We're a year and a half later, about. You can see East Pine Street in the background. There's where it all was. I mean, if you were to turn your head right around, you would see Chop. But where are we now? Where are we now? Everyone asks me that. They say, oh, all this stuff happened, and there was Chop, and there's all these people in the streets. And so what was the end result? And that's where the documentary ended for me. Like, the process is because there was no police reform. There was no defund the police. There was no abolish the police. Now, there was a change in our state law here in Washington. They've made it harder for cops to handcuff and throw people on the hood of their car and strip search them and all that. So in a way, like, we didn't quote unquote defund the police, but there's, I guess, changes were made. When I saw that, I was like, wow. And that only happened in Washington, so I guess we can kind of take credit for that a little bit. Give these people kind of a pat on the back. But then I realized that there was the second aspect of this whole thing, and that's how we have become quote-unquote antifas. Now, why is it that when people watch my films, when I laugh at the Proud Boys and say allegedly when Antifa allegedly does something, and then people say, well, that's propaganda. Why is it that people think that that's propaganda and that I'm so Antifa if I don't like Proud Boys? Well, it's because we're tribal in nature, and we think that if for some reason this person supports what I don't like, then the only way to be on the polar opposite of that person is to support the thing that they don't like and join the quote-unquote other side. I watched a bunch of football things today, some quick documentaries people made that were pretty interesting about the Super Bowl getting thrown by Cam Newton years ago, and I watched it and I said, yeah, that's actually pretty compelling. But no one's ripping those people apart for their videos, saying, "Oh, you're a Cam Newton hater. Oh, you're a Broncos boy." No, people didn't say that. No, why is that? Why is it that even in sports, the most tribal thing that we have, like you guys, or even me, when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, I was pretty stoked. You know, there was like 100,000 people downtown Seattle, way more than the protest when the Seahawks won. Just remember that. Seahawks brought more people downtown than all the Breonna Taylors and George Floyds combined. Now, what does that say about us as a society? Well, that's a whole nother documentary, I think. But what's really interesting is I think people took this whole idea of Antifa. Look, you guys got a Seahawks hat right here. People took this idea of this Antifa and the patriot idea, and they said, okay, well, that's polar opposites then. Everyone who's a patriot can't get along with anyone who's quote-unquote Antifa, because the Antifa people want communism. Now, the first thing to think about is that there really isn't a Antifa. That's the first thing. If you believe that there's Antifa, then all these people are Antifa, every single one of them. This person is Antifa, that person is 100% Antifa. Everyone has to be Antifa. But I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, no. Like, this person in the black's Antifa, and this other person with the black is Antifa. All the black people are Antifas, and the other person, they're just there. Well, how did we get to that? How did we get to this thing with the black clothing is Antifa? Well, let me explain something. The whole idea of the black clothing is because people were scared that they were going to be arrested. And so this de facto black uniform, black bloc, is actually born out of fear. It's the fear of being identified and arrested. Now, I'm showing pictures because this is what I was here doing. I was taking pictures. It's actually kind of a good picture. Taking pictures of the cops. Taking pictures of just everything. That was no butt. I'm sorry about that. Everyone. I took pictures of everyone. I think I was trying to get a picture. I was trying to get a picture of this guy in this car. So people always assume me of being sexist, but like the reason I take these pictures is because there's obviously weird shit going on in people's cars. I don't know what they were doing. But anyway, I'm not gonna keep slideshowing around. I know that. So you end up with this whole idea of Antifa and these Antifas that want to destroy the government. And they want to go out and rip stuff up and destroy businesses and wreck livelihoods and all this other stuff. But that was just the sort of the sensationalism. Did I say that right? Sensationalism of the Antifa. The whole idea of Antifa is that there's a black garbed, bad, communist, anti-American force. And the only way to stop this force is to have our very own anti-Antifa force. Now, what does this look like? What does this end up looking like? This is what this ends up looking like. You get a bunch of people showing up at an event, ready to cause a ruckus. And this is what we now associate with being Antifa. It's not, it's not this. What happened to my pictures? Jesus Christ. It's not these people or weird people in their cars, like, spying on me. No, the whole idea of Antifa now is a group that, like, assembles and attacks like a force. like a militant group is what they're calling them. Militant group, right? Now, let me say for the record, if you're in this video, I'm sorry. I'm showing you in your black block. Occasionally, people from Portland do watch my videos, and I want to say I really like you guys a lot, okay? There's no hard feelings. Now, it's kind of rough and brutal what the black bloc people are doing. Now, this is the turning point for a lot of people. They say, well, this group just came and attacked. It just came and attacked this prayer group with kids, with, you know, they didn't do anything, and here comes Antifa, just ruining everything, just ruining the fucking day, right? And this is what this is what goes around the internet. This is what gets downvoted into oblivion on my page. This is why people tell me to fuck off, and I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not in this group of people. I'm not in either one of these groups, okay? And the reason I'm not an Antifa is because I got told some things and showed some things and saw some things at Chaz and Chop that made me understand the whole situation in a way that I don't know how many people have a firm grasp on the whole thing. I know that the leftists, if you want to call them that, they have an approach, they have a viewpoint, but if I were to, like, have a cup of coffee with a quote-unquote Antifa, maybe even this guy right here, and I were to say, you know what? I think you and the Patriots actually share a lot of views and could probably sit down and hash out a police plan together. And people think I'm crazy. They're like, no, it's impossible. The Antifas want communism, and the Patriots want good, hardworking American freedoms. And I'd say, no, you're wrong, and I'm right. Because what the Patriots are yelling about, and what Antifa and the leftists and all those Portlanders are yelling about, is the same end result. Now, let me explain this for a second. What I mean by end result, I mean by when all the huffing and puffing and the shoving and the throwing of the speakers and the fuck yous and the pulling up the pants and this guy with his anti-mask preaching, when it's all said and done, everyone just wants to go home and have the rights that they want and not be oppressed and not pay, like, excessive taxes to some weird, creepy politician. Everyone wants their little, like, happy places. That's really what it is. And for me, like, Seattle is not really my happy place. Okay, like, hiking in the woods, being out in nature. It should be well known that as soon as I can, as soon as the weather's nice, like, I'm gone for the summer if I can. Like, yeah, I come back during the night because I'm not a big fan of sleeping in the woods because I have insomnia. But no, I enjoy the outdoors. Like, and by outdoors, I don't mean a park with 100 people. I mean going by myself, being by myself, not talking to people. That's my crack. Like, that's what I want. That's what I'm addicted to. So when I think about what do I want from this country, this American dream, well, I'd like a little house out in the woods somewhere, and I'd like people to not fuck with me. And I really don't have any other, like, deep, like, goals other than that. Like, everyone should know that I've played guitar for 20 years, and I'm happy where I'm at with it. I guess I could have a house. That would be cool to own a house. But I have pretty much everything I've ever needed since I was 16 and started playing guitar. I really didn't aspire to buy fancy cars or have impressive partners with, you know, fancy dates and friends that invite us over to go on a, I don't know, fucking canoe trip in Alaska. Like, I don't get down like that. Like, I like being by myself. Hold on a second. So what we have here is we have people, ideas, and we have end results that everyone thinks are totally different. We got We got the right-wing people thinking that the only thing that they can have is the America that was won in World War II, and everything that degrades that, whether it's Antifa or communism or even a transgender person using one type of bathroom versus another. Like, the deep-seated Republican conservative beliefs tell you and tell me and tell everyone that we got to get back to like Lassie and, you know, whatever the Jetsons was pitching to us in the cartoon world of the future. Like, I think everyone wants a streamlined, really cool, really prosperous version of the 50s. Everyone wants to be baby boomers again. You know? And the problem is we need to realize that we have, you know, less resources, less space. Everyone wants to buy a house. They're really expensive now. Can't buy a house for $30,000 anymore. My parents bought their first house for $35,000 in Renton. I don't know how many years ago that was. It's probably 1,000 years ago, but that's shocking today. So what am I getting at here? I'm getting at the point that everyone's going for their own little individual freedoms. And we think some people are in a better position than others to deliver us what we need. We look at Jeff Bezos and we say, you know what, Jeff Bezos, you have so much money. You have so much money that you should just hand out some of it to the people who don't have any money. And those people that don't have money will be lifted up and they'll get jobs and they'll be able to go and, you know, pay back into society, and, you know, they'll be able to uplift the next person who needs help and needs to get a job. And, you know, the cycle of hardworking people building a country and building businesses and being entrepreneurs, and I don't really think that can work in the situation that we're in anymore. I think people need to think about not what's communism and what's socialism and you need to look at how the classes are actually living. And when I think about the people that are called Antifa, I think about the people who are at the very lowest level of economic success. And these are the people, we're going to bring into the footage here of the Antifas. And these are the people who are saying, wait, we don't want to be minimum wage workers. We don't want to have no health insurance. Okay, we don't want to be persecuted against. We don't want to be shot by the police for having a mental health episode. Like, we don't want these bad things that are happening. And when people get together and they say, yeah, let's defund the police because the police are the ones shooting black people and evicting people, and they're the tools of oppression. And the other side, the right, they look at this and they say, oh, well, you guys want anarchy. You want to rip down society. You want to have everything for free. You want everyone gets their own trophy. And I think that the reason people react to the left asking for things, asking for more social security, or asking for housing for the homeless, like let's just say the housing for the homeless is the biggest issue. And let's say I'm Antifa and I want to provide 1,000 houses in Seattle for the homeless. And I write that on a sign and I go downtown with all my black friends and I say, we're going to rip shit up until we get 1,000 houses for the homeless. And then the right-wing people, the patriots, and all the hardworking landlords and business owners, they'll say, you know what? We got what we got because we worked hard and we didn't go out and fuck around and smoke weed and drink White Claws and say fuck the police. Like, we stayed extra hours and worked hard. Well, I want to tell you what the point of this video is I did that for 10 years. For 10 years, I worked a construction-level job, and I became one of the best people to do what I do in the entire state. I was a aquatic engineer and I worked on bioactive systems, so like ponds and other things that involve the environment and biochemistry, mineralization, different types of saturated nutrients and stuff like that. And I got to be so good at my job that I went and worked at billionaires' houses and got to meet like famous actors and authors and Microsoft billionaires and Seahawks owners and everyone in the upper crust of society. Hunts Point, Washington is a city in Bellevue that Steve Ballmer lives there. Scott Oakey from Microsoft lives there. There's a billion people who live there, a billion billionaires who live there. And that was one of my routes. I would drive down Hunts Point Drive in my service van and go to house after house working on all these crazy things that people built into their houses and outside of their houses and going through their houses and all this crazy filtration equipment and UV sterilizers. And I would have to show up and explain, okay, well, your water's green because it's 100 degrees outside and there's full sunlight. And I'd have to break it down into the most basic terms for people. And I was very good at my job because I could identify problems and solve them like very quickly. And I was like an elite tactical technician. And I worked alone and I was very good at what I did. And when COVID hit, my company turned to me and they said, you know what? We're not getting in as many phone calls as we did last year. And the way that we're going to deal with this is we're just going to not schedule you for 2 days a week. We're just going to go ahead and let you, hold on. We're going to go ahead and let you basically not make as much money and not work as much. And we're not going to do anything about it. That's tough beans for you. You were making $2,000 a month. Now you're going to make $1,500 a month. Now, what does this mean for me when my rent's $1,300 and $1,300 a month plus utilities, and I'm only making $1,500, and I need to like buy gas and insurance and Comcast and pay 5 other bills and my credit cards? What did that mean for me? Well, it meant that I used up all my savings and all my retirement within the first 2 months of COVID. Within the first 2 months of this bullshit, I lost everything that I'd gained in 10 years. Now you say, well, why didn't you save more money? Why didn't you put more money in the bank? Why didn't you buy stocks? Why didn't you buy bonds? Why didn't you buy property? Well, I was making just enough money to pay my bills and attempt to pay back student loans and debt. What was the debt from? The debt was from fixing my car when someone else did a bad job fixing it and it overheated and the engine exploded somewhere. And that was $3,000. I didn't have $3,000 sitting around to fix my car to get to work, so I maxed out 2 credit cards to do that. And then COVID hit. And I had $10,000 in credit card bills within 2 months of COVID. And at that point, I was in a bad position at work. And I'm not going to get into the long, boring why I don't work where I work anymore story, but that ended. I haven't worked until last June 29th. Now, I think a lot of people assume that anyone doing journalism, anyone doing YouTubes, anyone doing anything like this has an income stream. That is totally false. Almost everyone who is at the Portland protests that I know of, that I've vetted, that is an actual, like, their heart is in the right place and they were filming for the right reasons. Not a single one of those people have made more than, let's say, a few $100s here or there during the peak, the absolute peak of protesting. I know some of the people that thought people were making like $100 a month. Those people were making like $5 a week sometimes. Like not even enough they didn't even have money to put gas in their car. So even this little bit of money that people thought we were making, we really weren't even making that money, or at least not of the people that I was following and aware of. There could have been right-wing people out there making lots of money that we don't know about. So when I got done filming my footage and doing everything else, there's a question of what to do with the footage. There's always a question of what to do with your footage. Now, having the benefit of being through this stuff for month after month after month after month, like I was at Chop and Chaz every day. There's only 3 days that I wasn't there because I had to take breaks and go like for hikes. But most days, even if I went for a hike, I went to Chop afterwards until like 1 in the morning. So I lived this long enough to really understand everything about why people do what they do. And that seems like a bold, arrogant statement to make. And I'm making it now, a year and a half in, because I've really seen very far into the psychology of this. So let me explain one more thing here. So now we're looking at the quote-unquote Antifa and their umbrellas. The umbrellas are really a thing they love. And then you got these guys. The yellow indicates Proud Boys, so don't tell me this is Prayer Boys. And then the American flags, I guess, indicate they're patriots. But the whole point of this video is this. If you think that's a patriot, then at the same time, you have to understand that these are also patriots. And you're saying, no, they're communists. They're the opposite of patriot. No, because they and me believe that fixing a broken system, a broken racist system that oppresses black and brown people 100%, that is not open for discussion in this video. We know it. We know the system is racist. And all we want to do is we want to move into a direction where we don't have this toxic, racist, sexist bullshit anymore. And when we get rid of that, and these quote-unquote patriots understand this, you're going to be happy. You guys, this guy, don't tread on me sticker, what patch, looks like a Wu-Tang thing in his hat. You guys are going to be happy. Now, this guy's the guy that pulled the people out of the car. Now I recognize this whole getup. See, that's what happens when you wear the same outfit. So this guy was pulling this dude out of his van and punching him in the face. He thinks he's a real fucking Navy SEAL. Yeah, let me catch you outside, buddy. I can know by the way someone's walking whether or not like they're a threat to me. And I really don't see any big threats here. I'm kind of being a jerk, but it's true. It's the same with the Antifas. I know how to size people up. And I've survived situations in my life because I was able to size people up and either push them harder or go, you know what, dude? I think I'm acting the fool here in this parking lot. And I've gotten in a fight or two at Chop with the quote Antifas. I have got into a fist fight with another leftist, if you will, over whether or not I can take pictures. And I didn't whip his ass, but I gave him some good uppercuts that were totally undefended, and he got rocked. And of course, a bunch of people were piling on and yanking us around, and there was an undercover cop who like jumped off his bench, and I mean, it was a whole fucking charade, just like this, with all these people running around and yelling shit. Yeah, look at these guys. And I've been there, and I've lived it, and I can tell you what 100% certainty that if you took all the black people and all the patriots, at least the ones who have the ability to talk and not are just clouded by racism and hate, like the people who are actually interested enough to actually want to figure this out, I can tell you with 100% certainty that if you sat down with the black bloc and you had a discussion, you would immediately you would stop with the aggression. and you'd say, whoa, these are some educated people who have really put some time and effort into researching what they're doing. And it's not a bunch of crazy soy boys who are like reading Lenin and getting all excited about like communism. No, it's not. And the problem is you don't get to see the middle of this. You see the far right, you see the far left, you see the abolish and, get rid of all the police everywhere forever posts. And it just seems like it's such a war. And that's the part that bothers me, is that I've seen enough people sort of let their guard down at these things and talk and sort of come together. I've seen it happen enough, like in a case-by-case basis, to know that it works and to know that people can get together and be cool about stuff. And the other problem is the police view this kind of a thing like a protest where a bunch of people come out and they wear like black and they have masks and all this other stuff, all these things that are now so taboo. They look at the law enforcement and the ex-law enforcement and the pearl clutchers and the Facebook moms. They look at this as an uprising of Mad Max criminals going into the streets and destroying everything. And I'll be totally honest with you when I say that a little bit of that is good. And it says in the Constitution that the tree of liberty will be fertilized with the blood of the patriots. That is the exact quote. It gets misquoted all day in Fox News comments when I occasionally read them. But that's the quote. Is the blood of the patriots fertilizes the tree of liberty. And we don't need to actually have blood. It's enough to smash a Starbucks window, have that go on Como News, and have everyone go, oh, these horrible antifas destroying Starbucks. What did Starbucks ever do to anyone? What did the owner of Starbucks do to us? He stole the Sonics. He let the Sonics be stolen. Remember that when you think about Starbucks windows. Think of all those Sonics games we'll never get to watch. Yeah, people forgot. But it's necessary. People coming together saying, we won't take this. Fuck this. This is bullshit. Everything that's happening right now, even after we got tear gas, we stood there and said, fuck you. And it was necessary. Because this is the only way for us in this day and age to have a conversation, is to have something so big and so crazy and so phenomenally world-shattering. If the actual whole world steps back and says, whoa, look at what's going on in Seattle. They got a whole autonomous zone. See, this was this is people when they actually got hurt by this. It wasn't just people running from tear gas. We got shot with actual rubber bullets. And those rubber bullets do not just bounce off of you. They cause injuries like we just saw. So it's necessary to do this. And a lot of these people aren't, like I said in the beginning, if you believe that someone's Antifa because they go to a protest and say fuck the police, then that's what you believe. You believe that all these people are Antifa. You believe this girl in the green shirt is 100% Antifa, just like this guy over here wearing a black sweatshirt, because he's obviously Antifa. And what about the press? Are they Antifa too? Well, of course, they're all Antifas. No, but here's the point. Everyone needs to watch what's happening in our world, and you need to look at it not from the side of a tribal thing, of one side versus another, and there's a fight, and there'll be an outcome of the fight. And we need to shoot each other with weapons in this fight. Rubber balls and paintballs and bear maces and stuff like that. We need to have a physical thing hit you and me and punch each other to have this fight. We're programmed in this tribal fighting, whose team are you on mentality. And I am here saying in this video that I am from Seattle, that I spent a year and a half with this, and I am on both sides, okay? I am on the Antifa side. and I'm on the patriot side. I am not on the Proud Boys side because that is not a side, that is a distraction. Okay, that is a bunch of really high-strung dudes who are reacting. It's a reactionary thing. If there was no such thing as Antifa, there would have never been a Proud Boy. And we'll see it evolve. We'll see when the racism is no longer working for people. They'll call it something else. They'll call it Proud Patriot. They'll call it America's Freedom Force or something. And you know, it could be legitimized by the US government. We could see a whole bunch of like babysitting type agencies pop up to keep protesters in line, and it could be sanctioned by when Trump gets reelected or whatever. We could see all kinds of different directions in this. We could see the police sort of not wanting to police these kind of things anymore, and for some reason letting this get worse. I don't really know. But I do know this. The solution is not getting out in the street and shooting each other with paintball guns and hitting each other with batons. You need to stop reacting, and you need to start listening. When I started listening and actually listening to what people are saying and not just waiting for my turn to yell at them or whatever, and not waiting for my turn to say Trump rules, like, or whatever was happening last year, when I actually started listening to both sides, I started really understanding what the actual problem was. And the problem is there are two different sides. Yes, there are two different sides. But it's not about going to the polar opposites of both sides. It's about what I've said this whole time, what I said on CJ's stream. Shout out to CJ TV. It's about bringing both sides together. It's about someone finally saying, and like, taking a breath and going, okay, we just got done fighting. We fucked each other up. We still have different opinions. What now? Okay? And I've seen that. I've seen two guys fight in a parking lot, get bloodied and black-eyed and missing a tooth, and huffing and puffing, shake hands and say, okay, all right, we got that over with. So that's what I'm saying. That's what this video is. We've got it over with. There does not need to be another Proud Boy rally. There does not need to be a direct action. What we really need is for people to calm down. That's really what it is. Because if we don't, and we keep going with this, my side's right, and we need to destroy your side. If we keep going with this, we'll just keep having this. And I do think people enjoy this. I know this person. I've seen enough videos of this dude to know he's having a good time. And I know the leftists are going to hate me for saying this, and I'll pretty much end it here. But I don't blame these guys. I don't look at these guys like they're total crazy psychopath. No, I've had guys like this on my crews and stuff like that. I've been in the locker rooms with these guys before. I know how they think. And there's not the exposure to the information that, let's say, I have had. Now, I've studied psychology, I've studied all kinds of stuff, but I don't have a master's degree. I'm not a super educated person. Everything I've learned this year, I've learned from going to protests and talking to people, and occasionally I'll see, when we used to watch Woke, I'd see a comment in Woke, and I go, you know what? That guy or woman has a really good point. And they just stated something in a way that I'd never thought about. Another point that someone made was, it's not about you. It's not your movie. Like, it's literally not our individual little bios. We're not writing our own, Hallmark movies. We are in this together. Like, yes, when it's your Facebook account and it's your Instagram thing, sure, it can feel like you're running a journalism company and you're providing information and fact-checking and making sure that the right person is tagged and the credit goes to the right photo, and we love doing that. but we're all doing it in one way or the other, by sharing, by retweeting, by telling our coworkers, "Oh my God, you just see what these guys did? They smashed this van and they drove off afterwards. There's bear mace everywhere, and they got their paintball guns out. And yeah, let me watch this video." Well, we've seen the videos, we've seen the protests, we've watched Homo News and CNN and Fox News and everything, and Vox make their own little documentaries about it, Vice TV. And I think we've seen enough. I'm going to say right now, I have seen enough. I've seen enough of this guy too. Look at this guy the mouse is pointing at. He's the same guy from that person getting just smashed in the face with the car. He never stops taking his fucking pictures. And he's part of the problem, and I'm part of the problem. I was part of the problem from the very beginning. And I want to do better, and I want to do better by making videos that actually bring people together. So, do me a huge favor. Watch my videos with a grain of salt. Realize that I've just now admitted that I am on both sides. And I'm not the only one. Go watch Trumpet Man's videos. There's other people too. You know, you're going to be really surprised when you find out that some of the people that you thought were leading the revolution voted for Trump. I didn't, but other people did. And they voted for Bush twice. And those are the people that you thought were the most rebellious anarcho antifas. Were actually conservative Republicans. I'm talking about Trumpet Man, by the way, if you don't know this. Trumpet Man's posted videos saying that not only did he like Trump, but he's voted for Bush, and he's attended Trump rallies, and he is essentially a Republican. Now, him and me both share this idea that it's not about putting things into boxes. It's about thinking outside the box and thinking to the future. So, I'm admitting that I lean both ways, you know. I love my guns, all 7 to 9 of them, depending on what qualifies as a gun. I love my guns. I love my quote-unquote freedom. But I have grown up in a racist family, and I cannot stomach even talking to those people. And if I had a message to send to the Gabelines, it would be this: watch my videos, try to figure out why I despise my family. And it's because you're so close-minded that you make work for everyone else. You make me work harder trying to show people truth, because racist white rednecks are so busy trying to tear down what they feel are enemies of freedom that they don't realize that those people would come to your house and pour water into your mouth when you're dying of dehydration as you're spitting in their face. Like, I know people in Portland who, if any one of these Proud Boys took a gunshot wound to the fucking neck, they would race over there with their fucking medical kit to save their life. I would. And I fucking would beat the shit out of some of these guys for some of the things they've done. But as a group, when these people show up, I understand the mentality behind it, because I was born and raised in this type of redneckism. And I'm living proof that you can go out into the protest with your eyes open and your ears open and your brain open, and you can absorb the information and you can make an informed decision like I have and say, you know what? The people who have the American flag tattooed on their head have a point, and the people on the other side with the black bloc and all the shields and everything else, those guys, they also have really good points. So everyone go out, hug your local Antifas. I don't know about the Proud Boys. They're going to have to do some serious soul searching, because I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to be racist and have a constructive conversation with the rest of the civilized world, you need to get that out of your head that the whole racist thing is like a side to be on. Because like I'm still not even talking shit. But I honestly believe that people's hearts more or less are in the right place on both sides. You just need to embrace the solutions. Now, what are the solutions? That is a whole nother topic. It's a much longer video. And it's something that we as a society are going to have to put our heads together to come up with. It's not going to be one side or the other coming to this decision when they're both yelling for opposite things. But that's only like that because people don't understand that the Black Bloc Antifa, they want to see the homeless taken care of. They want people to have living wages. They want to have peace. Sorry, I'm going to drink something. Peace, prosperity, and freedom. And it's the same thing that the Patriots want. It's just these details and the way you look at it. It's just making it really hard for people to accept that, hey, there's going to be common ground. There will be common ground. All right. Well, I really appreciate it if you've watched this whole video. I'm pretty private about a lot of the things that I'm doing because there's a lot of reasons to have privacy in this. But if it helps the cause for me to post my address and everything else and tell people to drop by my place and have a conversation and put your money where your mouth is if you want to, have a fist fight about Antifa so bad. Like, I mean, if it really helps people for me to go out there and be as visible as possible as someone who can answer these questions or add clarity to what seems to be just crazy shit, I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to take those risks. It's just that I have so much negativity coming at me through these videos that I just don't think it's constructive, but I really want it to be. I would invite anyone who has radical opposing ideas to me to reach out to me and tell me, hey, you're totally wrong, and here's why. Because I've been listening for 1.5 years to what everyone has to say, and this video is the result of that. Now, I'm going to make another one that's actually about the protests eventually, like a longer one, that gets into some more stuff that is harder to get into without really, really slowing down a lot of stuff. But I hope this has been informative for the people who are interested, and I hope that every single person who's watched this video, when you leave this video, I want you to be thinking about the fact that there are solutions for just about everything out there that you could possibly imagine. I'd want to say there's solutions for everything, but we don't know that. If an asteroid comes to the planet and it's going to be here in 10 minutes, we might not be able to solve that problem. Well, you know what? We can solve these problems. All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Have a great night.